1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Third Culture Africans. My guest this week, I feel like needs very little introduction, but I will do it anyway. She is a graduate from Central St. Martin's, Chelsea College of Art and Design, has a bachelor's degree in textiles, and has one of, would I say, the continent's most famous fashion houses and interiors. And she is a part of the Designers Guild and has worked with the Royal Collection showed at Buckingham Palace in 2010. And our guest this week is none other than Banke Kuku herself.
Thank you.
Way.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like at this point we should have like applause. I think the live sessions are a lot more fun because then you could hear like the applause in the background,
yes.
and I love that. But I guess everyone knows, I guess, your iconic pajamas that you created, and I think that would probably be, if anyone thought of your brand, that would probably be the first thing that comes to mind. I think you were one of the first people to kind of take African-inspired sort of patterns and designs and put them on a luxurious fabric like silk. But I would love for us, before we sort of delve into career and all of that stuff and accolades, whether it's, you know, the Live with Net-a-Porter or any of those fabulous things you've done, which are incredible, building a business out of Lagos, Nigeria, and not the other way around. I would love for us to start with, I guess, your early career, like in terms of, did you know that this is what you wanted to do?
Yes, I've always known.
Okay.
I always knew I was going to be a creative.
Okay.
From a very young age.
Okay.
So like primary school age. But I didn't know what part of the creative industry I was going to go in. I knew it was going to be like fashion.
Yes.
But I didn't know like what. I knew there were lots of different roles within fashion.
Yes.
But I didn't know what it was going to be basically.
And so at what point do you have the conversation with your parents and go, hey, I think I want to make clothes?
So I went to St. Martin's and I did my foundation there. You have to do a foundation before you can do your degree in the arts world. And I did it in art and design. So I feel as if I was just coasting. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, which was good because I had a really open mind. Yes. And so I just kind of spoke to my parents. I just said I was going to go to art school. I didn't say I wanted to go into fashion. I just kind of left it very open. I didn't have to you don't have to specialize until after your foundation. Yes. So we just had the conversation.
And so at that point, where do you decide, okay, I think fashion is where I want to go? Was there like a pivotal moment?
Yeah, so at St. Martin's you have to, I think you have like you have to choose 4 like different things within art and design. So it can be sculpture, it can be artifacts. Yeah. So I chose fashion, textiles, I think sculpture, and something like fashion communications or something like that. Yeah. And I just did them. I didn't even know what it was. I was just kind of I had no expectations.
No, but I love it because I think people always assume that somehow, some way, we all know what we're doing.
No, I didn't.
I didn't either. And I still don't. Like, general misconception is I'm doing a lot of things for the first time. Yeah. And so, like, in fairness, you have the foundation, as you said, to carry on in the career that you started, but it's all not, it's not clear. It's not
at all.
sorted out.
At 18, there isn't that much pressure. So you can literally be living like a free spirit.
With Nigerian parents, there's some pressure.
But they may be putting pressure on you. But, well, anyway, I didn't really understand. Like, yes, my mom definitely was concerned because she was just like, what are you going to do with this?
Yeah.
My dad wasn't as concerned, but my mom was like, you really need to think about the future.
Yeah.
You need to think about taking care of yourself. You can't, what are you going to do with this? So, I mean, that pressure was on, but then I didn't really think, I just thought, no, I don't know what's going to come about this.
Yeah.
But this is what I really like and this is what I really love to do. And so I was, at art school in sculpture, not really having no idea where it was going. But then I stumbled across textiles. So when I did textiles classes, I really liked it. And then they were like, I can't remember, there must have been like 30 or 40 people in the class. It was like big classes at that point. And then they had to choose, I think they had to choose 15 from the batch to continue on for the degree.
Oh, wow.
Again,
so competitive.
It was very competitive.
But you didn't realize that was what was going on. You're just having fun. I love it.
I didn't really realize.
Yeah.
So I just did it. And I was like, actually, I really like textiles. So we had to do the exams and stuff. Yeah. And I got into textiles. And I think that was it.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So your first collection that you show, the graduates collection.
Yes.
How was that moment? Because it's a thing.
Yes. Now that's when you start to feel the pressure. So I think after your foundation year, then you have to go on and do 3 years of the degree. And I think after, once you go into your second year, then you start to feel like, actually, what am I doing this with this? Where am I going? And my final year project in my third year, that was a lot of pressure. Yeah. A lot of pressure. Because then you had different brands coming to see your work and then you go on to further exhibitions, trying to get a job and
so at what point do you then go, okay, I'm gonna work for myself?
I was actually working in-house at different fashion brands for a while before I decided to work by myself. But I was doing it as a side hustle. Yes. I was freelancing for other fashion brands as well, designing textiles, both in Nigeria and in the UK. And it just became too much. I couldn't balance the two. Yes. So I just decided, I'm just going to quit my job.
So at this point, have you had any of the great things that you've had in your career?
No.
Okay. So there was no major accolade that was
pushed me to do
that you were going, okay, now I'm going to go for it. So
it just became like a balance. I couldn't balance the full-time job and then freelancing. Yes. And the freelancing was paying me more. So I decided to leave the job. And so I had more passion for the freelance.
The idea that fashion doesn't pay in the early days, I think that's also something that I want us to talk about, if we can, in this episode, is to really talk about the business of fashion and the idea that people assume that you're either going to make $1 million once you start because your collections are amazing, or there's no money in fashion.
Okay. There definitely is money in fashion, definitely. And it just depends where you are. Yeah. So you could, a lot of people start as interns, obviously, that's very tough. But if you're talking about owning your own brand in the fashion industry, of course because everybody needs clothes. Everybody needs clothes at all different levels, whether it's the lower end to the higher end. As your brand gets bigger, you need to upskill. And obviously things get more expensive. Yes. Production is tough sometimes. Yes. So you have a lot of money in and money out. But then there are different ways of, balancing that and actually seeing your profits.
Okay. So let's talk about a few things. Yeah. We can talk about, perhaps, should we do Michelle Obama wearing one of your clothes?
Okay, so Michelle Obama.
How does that come about?
I designed some prints for 2 fashion brands. Yeah. And she wore them that way. Yeah.
So she wore both of your prints?
Yes.
From 2 different designers?
Yes.
So at that point, were you known?
No.
But your work which you had put under 2 other designers. Serendipity or what?
I know. So I think for a while I was more of a fashion insider.
Yeah.
And then when I started my brand, then I became, my work became more known. Yeah.
So when she wore it, was that a moment for you where you were like, okay, maybe I need to be out there? Because like...
I think so at that time I was still very much a textiles designer.
Okay.
So I was still doing fashion and interiors. Okay. And I think I was still battling with, what do I want to do? Do I want to go into fashion full time? Do I want to go into interiors? And I was looking for signs from heaven and all sorts of things. And actually that's something I really battled with for a long time. So kind of knowing where you fit in. And also because I had a lot of fashion customers. So I felt like if I started my own fashion brand, it'd be too much competition. And then I would lose them all. And then I just have this brand to push by myself. So I wasn't really ready to make that decision. And then when I moved back to Nigeria, then I made the decision because I felt that fashion was much faster here. Yes. And interiors is very slow. And people's taste was very different from what I was used to kind of working with when I was abroad. So fashion just made sense.
And then you open your own store, scrap, you know, doing it and having your collections in other stores. Was there a clear vision in your mind? Like, okay, I need to open my own store. I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. Because you've had experience working with other successful designers, obviously in-house, you know, the cost of running that business. At what point do you kind of go, okay, I'm going to open my own store, take on the overheads, do my own production, do everything from end to end?
Well, I opened the store, so I moved back to Lagos. I worked with some other people who were in the fashion industry. So I'd never worked in Nigeria before, just to kind of understand how people work here, not just within fashion, just general work space. I just opened so I was offered a store at where I currently am. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to open the store. And at the point, I still wasn't doing fashion. Yes. I just had my cushions and scarves and things like that. So I said, okay, well, I'll just open this space and every day I will go to this space and I will, I don't know, just start thinking. I didn't necessarily see it at the time as a store. It was more like a space for me to kind of figure myself out and be creative. So that's what it was. And then, you know, then I had a really great customer who's still one of my great customers today. And she had a scarf and she really wanted a kaftan out of it. So I was like, okay, like I'll try. Let's see how. So I made her one kaftan and then she ordered more and then she brought her friends and then they ordered more. And then I was like, okay, let me try and do something else like that will still work with my interiors. That's when I started doing the pajamas and then one pair. It was very organic. It wasn't. I didn't actually set out to have it's not as if I sat down and had this business plan. I'm going to do this. It was very organic. And
so, you make the pajamas.
Yeah.
The famous pajamas. Everyone's ripped that. Everyone's ripped everyone. Everyone has ripped the blueprint of those pajamas across the globe.
Yes.
At what point do you start to see all the different versions of this one pajama that you created? What did that make you feel?
At first, it was really intimidating because you're just like, oh my gosh, all these people like this. You just kind of feel, and also when you work so hard to create something, and especially when you're in Nigeria, and it's even longer because you have to wait until it gets all delivered to you. And so at first it really did get to me, and now it's just part of the business. I'm so used to it. I even feel a bit awkward when I don't see.
Really? Why would they copy this one? I need to copy it.
No, I know, honestly, but I don't. That doesn't say people should copy, and I'm still not comfortable with copying. But I just it is because when I worked at Burberry or wherever, you can never avoid it. Yes. It's part of the industry. Yeah. If you're making something for £100, then I guess people who want it for £5 have to have a market as well. Yes. So you can't really think of it as, you can't take it too personal. Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned loosely Burberry, but you kind of cut your lettuce, as it were, Burberry, Christopher Bailey's team. and then the Designers Guild. For people who don't understand what the Designers Guild is, do you mind? I love their cushions, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And they stuff them so well.
So the Designers Guild, so I worked with the Designers Guild when I was in my last year of uni, because as I said, I didn't really know where I was fitting in, and I didn't know whether I actually wanted to finish uni at that point. I thought I was just gonna leave before it all ended and just start. So I had great opportunities already. So I just thought if I don't take these opportunities, when I do finally graduate, will I get them again? Because in the creative industry, you only really get, if it comes to you, you don't know when next is going. There's no structure in that respect. So I was in between that, but my parents would definitely have to finish.
Yes.
Like you have to come this far.
Yeah.
Something else will come up.
Yeah.
So I was working there my final year of uni, and so the Designers Guild, it's like an interior company, and they do like the most fabulous designs and prints, and it's all from it's a British company as well. So just have a look at them.
They have great cushions.
Yeah, cushions.
I can testify.
Curtains, rugs.
Great fabric.
So I think it was great that I had lots of industry experience early on. That really helped what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have in that industry experience, you can't really. It's very hard to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you make the one pajama that becomes many pajamas, that then becomes the pajamas of probably, if there was a definitive style of pajama for a particular time period, I think yours wins the prize.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? If someone says, you know how you have the memes of this is me in the 2000s getting ready to go to the club. I feel like in another 20 years, there'll be this meme of this is us in 2010 or 2015 or 2018 getting dressed to go to dinner, and it's all the pajamas. But with that being said, you make the one pajamas, and then all of a sudden there's this demand, and then there's scale. Everyone talks about the challenges of scaling. And so how do you go from making one pajamas to making 200 pajamas and still keeping your head above water?
So I think a lot of our scaling happened during lockdown. So the world was very quiet, but some manufacturers were still open. So it was really good for us. So for example, so we had, but not many people were in production. So the manufacturers were staying open, but they were really everybody was struggling at the time. So they really valued people who were still placing orders. So I was really lucky because my manufacturers focused a lot on me and made sure my fabrics and my buttons, everything was perfect. And they would take me through different, they'll give me different options. Do you want to try this? Do you want to try that? So they had my time. Whereas now they wouldn't have time for me. So that's they kind of guided me through it a lot. And I was really grateful for that. So a lot of our scaling happened during lockdown, and then after the lockdown, we continued basically, and we just built different relationships. And obviously when the world was open, then I was able to go and see these new people I had started relationships with, which was amazing. And
Tokyo.
Yeah. No.
You've retailed.
Oh yes. We retailed in Tokyo.
How? Don't even know where you are going. Your tunes are just everywhere. But again, a country like Asia, we don't speak the language. Basic things like labels. Right?
Yes.
Labeling in a language you don't speak.
Yes. No, but the things you can, they allow you to label in your own language.
Okay.
Yes, you don't have to.
Okay.
I think if they want to label in their language, and they can, they will sort that out.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. It works differently in beauty.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You have to label with the right language, or else.
Really?
Yeah. It's quite regulated.
Oh no, in fashion you don't have.
Oh, so you can just that's nice. That's nice. I remember when you did the pop-up collaboration thing at Selfridges.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious choice to kind of take Banke Kuku back to essentially an iconic shopping department store?
It was a permanent collection there.
Okay.
So we had my cushions there. And that was through a friend just knew the buyer. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could see your cushions there. And email the buyer, and the buyer really liked them, and we put them there.
Okay.
So, but it was perfect because it would kind of put my brand on the level that I wanted my brand to be on, and next to other brands that I, aspired to be. That was really early. That was like my first interior collection. So it was just a few months into having my own brand. So it was really great. It was a great experience and great learning as well.
Wow. So when you get the Selfridges, you get all of this, and then it's like, okay, the pressure to keep going at a specific level. How do you deal with that?
I feel like this is the only level I've kind of understood. I've always worked in luxury. Yeah. From even when I was working at Matches and when I was in uni, or from what I've always really, that's what I really, I'm not that great at other, like maybe at mass or, so this is always,
what you've done. So your fashion show you just had last week, we had another guest on the show who was saying, if you don't answer your emails, they're upset at you, by the way. And in my mind, I was like, but she just had a fashion show. Well, I'm sure she's tired.
Yeah, we're getting around.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sure she's tired. I'm like, it's intense. And you had a big collection.
Yeah, we had a big collection.
And it was a big night out. It was a big night out for all of Lagos.
Yes.
How do you deal with the pressure of your collection each season being one that's anticipated for not just by like people in fashion, but like by consumers, your actual customers? Because that's a different relationship.
Yes, it is a different relationship. So this is the first time we've done a show of that scale.
Yeah.
And I definitely wanted it to be bigger than what I did the previous years. I really wanted the customers to feel like immersed in the inspiration and the collection. And there is pressure. It is pressure.
It's one thing to be like to an editor. It's another thing to the people that you know, because your clothes are ready to wear clothes.
Yes.
And to have them be so involved in your collections. How do you navigate that?
So we always have our customers obviously at the front of everything. So we're used to constantly, even on Instagram, it's all about our Kuku tribe. And so we're used to them being very involved anyway, even with, if you shop from the store or from WhatsApp or stuff, you're able to kind of select the prints you want. And so we really, through that, we can really understand what our customers like, how they are, constantly in communication with them. So we know like their moods, their temperaments, and what makes them happy, what doesn't make them happy. So on the customer side, we're used to that. But I think, it's more on the design side, because you're putting your idea out for the first time and you don't know how they're going to take it. And they could just turn up and say, oh God, that was awful.
Oh no. Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. It's done.
Yeah.
So, we did put out teasers and we saw how people had taken to the teasers, and we generally have a formula that we believe works.
Yeah.
So.
And how do you leverage, because we're in the social media age, right? And you talked about your Kuku tribe, and you've done some really avant-garde stuff in terms of bringing your brand to people. You had the live shopping event with Net-a-Porter over lockdown. You were all the way in Lagos, and
it was Threads.
It was Threads. Yes, sorry, it was Threads. Thread styling, yes. I watched it. I was online.
Oh,
I watched it because I was like, all the way from Lagos.
Yeah.
And it's a specific clientele.
Yes.
And like, I try and follow as much as possible, like everyone on the continent doing really cool stuff. Purely because it inspires me. But also it is, if we're not turning up, we're not exactly. When we can't expect for something magical to happen if we're not turning up. And so that was I thought incredible. And I kept thinking was, gosh, I can't even imagine how many times you made sure the generator stayed on.
Yes.
The internet didn't flicker. I couldn't literally, I just kept thinking, gosh, like techno stress would have killed me. When you hear the beep beep and the fan and everything else. But I think lockdown did a lot.
It did a lot. And I'm naturally a shy person.
Don't say.
Yeah.
That would not have come across.
I've become so much better. I think doing all the lives and stuff has helped me. But naturally, so when I first started, I really struggled.
But they worked. They worked in terms of, one, awareness, I'm sure, and two, in terms of getting the product in people's hands.
Yes.
How much of that evolution now do you feel is part of your Kuku tribe or your brand story now?
I think lockdown was like, that's really when we scaled. The people were like more online, and so there was a lot more focus on just things that people will not notice now. You know, people were constantly watching lives. Like no one really has lives now. You know, and there was just, everybody was online. So because the attention was there, I think that really helped us. And also because I had literally just set up everything.
Yes.
That was the Christmas, that was my first Christmas as a fashion brand.
Yes.
I had set up all this stuff, built, like, you know, I had a workshop and I had more staff, and then suddenly there's lockdown.
Yes.
And I just thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to keep going?
Yes.
So I was working very hard.
Yes, definitely.
Otherwise, we had to close down.
Yeah, and I think that's the reality of lockdown, right? For a lot of brands at the time, if you didn't figure out a way, you wouldn't survive.
Yes,
it was cut and dry.
Yes.
Each time there was always this like conscious concern in my mind over, oh my God, can we survive another month? Are we going to be able to do it?
Yeah.
And then you're like, in my case, my business is mostly B2B. So I'm contacting my clients and going, how's everything?
Yeah.
You know, are you guys back in the office? Because like being back in the office, maybe there was some movement and maybe there was some, and then there was
in London during
I was, and there was that back and forth period of them going, oh, wonderful, this is going well, we're going to come off the list. And then no, some countries are on the red list, some countries are not. It was.
I think things in London was, so hard.
Yeah.
And you guys were on lockdown for much longer than we were.
Yep. And then you guys went on the red list, which meant there was not much happening.
Yeah.
Like no one was coming to Africa because no one wanted to get stuck here.
Yes. Lockdown was really interesting. I just remember that, but in Nigeria, we went through a time where we were like, okay, I could never come here. And then it came here, and then everyone's at home. But it was, I mean, obviously, it was a tragic time.
Hard time.
Yeah.
A hard time.
Helping you be smart with your money and finances is something we take pride in at Third Culture Africans. That's why we've partnered with Quidco, UK's #1 cashback platform, helping people to get something extra every time they shop online with cashback earnings on over 5,000 brands. All you need to do is browse or search Quidco for great cashback rates, huge discounts and vouchers at all of your favorite brands, and get a £15 new bonus credit when you join with our link. Earning cashback on your online shopping is easier than ever. Just hit the link below.
How much of your journey would you attest to? Because like there's this whole concept of like overnight success, right? And if people don't know the years you put in before, you know, you're easily lumped into.
Yeah, this overnight. A friend of mine was saying, well, we've been friends for a while. He was like, this happened so quickly. I was like, really? Do you think so? Don't you remember the days when I was on the phone to you and we were going through the whole... It's been really long. It's been a long journey. Well, I guess a short journey compared to what to come.
Yes.
But I've been doing this for almost 15 years. So it's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
And there's always this underestimation of time.
Exactly.
That people forget.
Yes.
You know, an ATM was created many moons before we saw it. It was like
Yes.
38 years before
Yeah.
it became mainstream. So can you imagine being the guy who created an ATM machine in the 60s?
Yeah.
And the first time like anyone takes your invention seriously is until 1990 something. I'm like, I would be dead.
Exactly.
I would be like,
and then you're just tired. You're just like, you know what, take it.
Every day you've been trying to sell markets, nobody's buying. Every day you're like, this thing is going to revolutionize. No, I'm like, if I think of being him, I'm like, okay, I've created this thing that means people don't have to queue up at the bank. I can see like many reasons why this is going to work.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, dead. Not even for like 5 years or 10 years. It's like dead for 30 something years before the first ATM hits a high street. At that point, I would have already checked out.
Yeah, I would have checked out. That's why after that, I'm just like, you know what, just have it, take it. I'm not interested. I'm done.
Yeah. And Coca-Cola only sold one bottle in its first year. And I always say this, which is like, when people go, oh my God, don't you think you need to be? And I'm like, we overestimate the time.
It takes a long time.
Long time.
A long time. Even with design, it takes a long time before you actually finally bring out something. You have to try it, and you may bring it out this year and it just sits there, and then next year suddenly everybody wants it. So you just never know.
And there's also a thing around how good are you at your job? Because everyone comes into entrepreneurship thinking that if I'm a great designer, I can run a business.
Oh yeah, it's very different.
How have you navigated being a creative in a business? Because fashion is such a business. Of all the businesses, I think it's probably one of the hardest.
Yes, it's such a business. So I definitely identify the parts that I'm weakest and then get other people to do it. Okay. And then I did lots of business courses in London, like Printers Trust. Yes. I did a few others online, and I think also working with other brands, you kind of understand it that way and understand how they structure things and they build collections and the finance side of it. Yeah. So through that, and then also just through like experience and making mistakes and knowing not to do it again. But the biggest drive is, you have to keep the business going and growing. So whatever it takes, and don't like do things that you can't afford. Yeah. Yeah.
In terms of goals, do you feel like you want to keep growing?
100%.
How big?
Bigger than ever.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Okay. Quick questions, because I love to do them. There'll be a few. Biggest misconception people have about your work?
That it's quick, it's easy.
Okay.
All the time. There is, especially when you do digital print, people just say, just print it now.
Express.
Yeah, exactly.
Express.
But it's such a process because you have to, sample it, check the colors, make sure everything is consistent. Yeah. See how sometimes some prints look better on one fabric and not so good on another fabric. So yeah, it's a lot of people generally think it's like, isn't she just doing X, Y, and Z?
She's just scribbling on her notepad. Yeah. Where does the passion come from for you?
The passion comes, it's just always been part of me. Yeah. Like being able to create something and share it with other people and also allow those other people to be part of the creation.
Yes. Yeah. How different are you from last year?
Wow. I think I'm a lot more patient. Okay. I'm not so, because I think I don't panic all the time. Before you constantly panic, oh my gosh, if this doesn't do this. Yeah. And then sometimes you go to sleep and you're so exhausted because you panic all day long, all night long. And that panic doesn't take you any further.
Real life.
You know what I mean?
Real life.
So
real life.
So I've kind of just learned to sit back, take my time, figure things out. Yeah.
And in the beginning, you're pressed for cash.
Yes.
You
all
need
the time.
to sell. Yeah. And that is a real fear. It is a real problem where you're sat and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. But I've learned to also share with my team. So sometimes when I'm just like, hey, look, we have these, before I used to carry everything. So I would know the targets, but I wouldn't say anything. And then so now I'm just like, hey, look, this week, this is the target. So it's your responsibility. Yeah. It's your job.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm not as panicked, and I'm a lot more patient.
If you had to recommend 3 books that you read or have read that have really influenced how you see yourself in your work, what 3 would they be?
I think Tamara Mellon's book is really good about Jimmy Choo and her journey and how she, she basically, how she got into Net-a-Porter with her friend, and that if you're in fashion, you have to read that. I can't quite remember the name of the book, but I know it's her first book about how she started Jimmy Choo. Diane von Furstenberg.
I love that book.
Exactly.
Love that book.
So good. And then, of course, Michelle Obama.
Hey, Becoming.
Yes, Becoming.
How would you define success?
Success is fulfillment.
Okay.
And feeling fulfilled within yourself and being able to share that fulfillment with the people around you.
So not all the press clippings.
And that adds to the fulfillment.
Me, I'm like, success. Just show me the money. As long as I can pay my bills, I'm like, let's be clear now. It's nice, but, who influenced you for the most part?
Who influenced me? It definitely wasn't, it's not a singular person. I just kind of, I'm definitely inspired by lots of different people and trying to like, for example, I love Michelle Obama's part of her story, and I like this person, and so it's just a combination of different, really strong women, and I try and kind of take what they teach in their stories. Yeah.
How much of what you do, because there's this whole thing about luxury and Africa sitting in the same sentence. It used to be so taboo to attempt to put them in the same sentence. Now less so, but how much of what you do is very conscious in continuing to maintain that?
Oh yes, so we always, we use the best of what we can to tell this African story, Nigerian story mostly, and we're really consistent with that. So I would never use like a cheap grade silk to try and cut corners or try. And also my customers are used to a certain level, so they wouldn't even accept that at this point. So I think it's a different way of showing Africa and a different sophistication. It doesn't have to be, what they always expect, like the pots on heads and all that kind of. I think it's also, and the thing we don't live like that here. Not everyone lives like that. So and so I think it's really important to show the sophistication. And the thing is that Nigerian and African design is very sophisticated, especially when you kind of put it on a different background. And I think people need to know that it's not just what they always think. Yeah.
With you being, I guess, now as popular as your brand is, how do you navigate the notoriety as a person? Because because it's one, like your name is on the stuff.
Yeah.
It's not like you named it Claire's Accessories or something. It's your name.
Yes.
How do you navigate or separate the two?
I definitely separate. For me, I'm a shy person naturally, so I'm not here, there, and everywhere naturally. But it's like, although it's called Banke Kuku, I do see it as. Before I had to separate myself because when I first started, I was like real like this. But you have to detach because because obviously the business is hard. Yeah. And when it when you go through the hard period, you take it so personally because it's a personal attack. Yes. You know what I mean? Yes. But it's got nothing. Well, it has got everything to do with you, but it's not like a personal thing. So I had to learn to detach from it, even though we're called the same thing.
How do you navigate now exchange rate? Everyone's talking about it. I've been here. I was literally this morning calculating the numbers, and I'm like,
so hard.
How is it possible that it's costing, like, it doesn't even cost anyone in the UK that much just in transport.
Yeah.
And what it costs now,
it's hard. It's
madness.
It's crazy because you have crazy inflation and then the exchange rate, and then people are not earning more.
No.
So even if you're increasing your prices, you have to be very careful because there's only so much people will pay for something because they're not making more money. Do you know what I mean? So at the same time, you can't make a loss. You know, you have to keep your business going.
Yeah.
So
how do you deal with it? Because there was in the beginning, I guess with brands like yours, there was that conversation around why are you charging so much?
Yeah.
Because you're a Nigerian brand.
Yeah. I mean, why do we charge so much? Because we use obviously very top quality fabrics. The process is very expensive. The products cost, you know, to make them. So we're not just pulling numbers from the sky, you know, and you know, it's the exchange rate thing is just unexplainable. It's just very hard. It's tough.
And so navigating now in this economy, as everyone calls it, this economy, but it's a global problem.
Yes, it is, because people are like, oh, things are so crazy in Nigeria. It's
everywhere.
So crazy
everywhere.
In the UK.
Yeah.
The cost of living is crazy now in the UK.
I went to the shop. A bar of Nigerian produced soap was 3,500 naira. I almost fell off my seat. I was like, literally £3.50 for a bar of soap. Yeah. And this is not fancy soap. This is just like, you know, when you go into supermarkets,
really like just a normal
medicated soap.
Oh my gosh.
And I thought to myself, and like I looked around thinking, am I like, maybe there's something wrong, like maybe someone wrote something incorrectly, or surely this has to be like 350 naira or something. No. And I thought to myself, in some ways, things are much more expensive, basic things that shouldn't be so expensive. Yeah. As like suya, that used to be £1, 150 naira a stick. Yeah. It's now 2,000 something. I'm like, I better think of something else to eat because this is not sustainable. But it's crazy.
It is crazy.
And it's bleeding into so much. So how are you as a business owner, for the most part, living within this ecosystem of having a global client base, which you do now have, and facing these challenges across continents? Because for everyone, it's slightly different.
Yeah. So for everyone, it is slightly different for people, but generally there's financial issues throughout the world. I think so. What we do is that we have now a much wider range of products. So, you know, we have our mesh, like what I'm wearing, which comes at a much cheaper price than the silk pajamas with the feathers and the embroidery. So we have that almost like a bread and butter product. We that people will pick that up without thinking too much. And it's not so financially heavy for them. So, and then we have our very high-end products, which, we try and have limited editions. So it's more, if people appreciate it more, it's more desired. You know, with this collection, we have some like beaded pieces, which we're only going to make a certain number. You know, so people feel like they're more special. And I think people will, continue to spend money on clothing that's good quality, that they can keep for a longer amount of time than, okay, it's kind of expensive, but the quality is bad. So I think the key thing is just maintaining our standards, which is so expensive. And, a lot of brands get very tempted and they start to cut corners and use cheaper things. So what we just did was to create a product that wasn't so expensive. And that has really helped.
And from a sustainable perspective, and it's something that, the whole world's talking about fast fashion, how sustainable are these practices? Should we as creators be thinking about sort of abandoning this idea that there should be multiple collections every year? And how do you see that?
So we don't have collections. So our collections they have names. They don't have seasonal. So we don't do the SS. autumn winter. We just drop collections when we can. Although we're now trying to do 2 collections a year, just because we want to kind of be on a fashion calendar, so we can kind of focus. We can also spend some time working with international stockists, and they require certain things.
Yes.
So I've just mentioned thoughts.
Sustainability.
Sustainability. So we don't. We sell. Like our first print is still selling. As long as there's demand, we're selling it. Yes. But we don't suddenly say, okay, well, because the season's over, we're not selling it anymore. You can't get it again. Yeah. No, we don't do that. So it's really helped, actually.
Was it conscious for you to kind of go, okay, I'm going to create evergreen, and this is not going to be dictated by...
Yes, that was conscious.
And trends?
Trends, we feel like we set the trends.
Hey. Well, if the shoe fits. If the shoe fits, girl.
No, but we still try it. We still keep on top of the trends. Yeah. So, if like mini skirts are in, we'll do our own version of the mini skirt. So we do.
Yeah, setting it is okay. You had it here. It's set. If you need to know what you need to wear next season, tune in. The show is amazing.
Thank you.
And this show is all about giving you your flowers.
Thank you.
And being in an environment where we could speak within ourselves openly about the nuances of running a business within an industry that is creatively competitive.
Very.
Not just even like the competition around the business of it. Yeah. The creative competitiveness is insane. Yeah. And being able to do it in an environment where people's demands are so clear.
Very clear.
Like customer demands are clear. Yeah. I'm like, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. So I had a look and I was like, okay, I went on like a whole bunch of like online websites going, okay, I'm trying to find like different brands. Mm-hmm. Let me check out the landscape. And I was like, okay, I need to understand these business models, because half of the brands make you wait 10 working days before you get an item.
Yeah, or longer. We have a pre-order system.
Yes.
So if it's not available, if like the print isn't, so because we let people order from whatever collection.
Yes.
Sometimes they may want a print that we haven't actually had on ground for months.
Yes.
Or even years.
Yes.
So, but we still give, because we order frequently, so we give people the opportunity to pre-order, which can take up to 8 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah. But then if it's available in Nigeria, if it's not at the store, then we can wait between a week and 10 days.
And so this is the norm.
No.
Yeah, I was blown away. I was like,
it's not like.
I was like, I need a top. I want a top. So can I just get a top?
But if it's available at the store, obviously, then you can. And we stock our store every week.
So there's a sense of urgency.
Yeah,
so if you want something as a customer, better be there first, or else if it's gone, it's gone.
Exactly.
You wait for however long you wait.
Exactly. But it's because, first of all, I mean, the business is so hard. I mean, a lot of brands are, production is not easy. Yes. Bringing finding your fabrics, let's say you source your fabrics in Nigeria, and then the supplier tells you it's not available. They have to wait until next. Like it's like the consistency of it. Yeah. It's so tough. And I think it's really important for consumers to understand the process. Because sometimes they think, how come we don't have this? How come we don't do this? And it's like, we are literally building an industry, us designers. Yeah. And with not very much support. We're literally doing it ourselves.
There are no guilds.
No, there are no guilds.
There are no guilds.
There's none of that,
There's no designers or textile guilds.
Exactly.
No guilds.
Exactly. So we're all doing it very individually. Yeah. All doing it on, even another thing is that we don't come together as designers on our own to kind of build something. Yes. Everyone is kind of keeping to themselves, keeping their seat. And I completely understand that. Nigeria is a very corporate place. Yeah. So you're kind of doing it on your own.
So contract manufacturing, all of that.
Contract manufacturing where?
Yeah. But it will make sense though.
Yeah, it would make sense. But then we don't have an industry that has that at the moment. Yeah. Because you have to take you have to that's like a long term. You know, when you think about having the full value chain out of Nigeria, it takes a really long time.
Wow.
And it will be so expensive.
Yes.
Because, yeah, I mean, me purchasing fabric from Nigeria versus abroad, Nigeria will be 100 times more expensive.
Wow.
Yeah. Because, you know, the light situation, the water situation.
Well, I've already learned that a bar of soap is, I was like, I literally, this morning I woke up and it literally hit me and I was like, I needed to actually just get it out, because a part of me couldn't believe that was like, it's a bar of soap made in Nigeria, so it's not imported. Like if you said, okay, it's imported, I understand.
And
there's
it's
something,
organic,
no, just standard. And I was like, okay, this is a problem. It's a real problem. What's next, if I can ask you the question, what's next in your mind's eye? Like we've talked about some of the challenges and stuff, but what's next you feel, if you could predict with a fairy wand, African fashion. I'm not sure if I like the idea of categorizing it like that, but you know what I mean.
What's next? I think everyone is like getting, I feel like a lot more people are getting involved in the industry, not on just the design level, but different parts like manufacturing, even from communications like press and all that kind of stuff. So I think the industry is definitely growing.
Yeah.
Now, what I hope for is we're able to keep this momentum up and actually build an industry where I have my manufacturer in Nigeria, and I can, you know, say I want 100 of these tops, and they deliver them to me perfectly with no issues, and we're exporting, and it's not this import exports, you know, it's just seamless, you know. So I really hope that we're able to kind of create something, and it's not like this hype that fizzles out. And then we all try and flee. Yeah.
What keeps you up at night?
What keeps you up at night? Thinking of next designs. What do we do next?
Is that constant for you?
Yeah. Constantly creating in my mind. Yeah.
How much of what you intend to create is stuff we get to see?
I think maybe 50%.
Oh, wow. What do you do with the remaining 50?
It's all in a book. And I kind of build on ideas. It takes me a while. So even some prints, I've been designing them for like a year.
Oh, wow.
And then I finally I'm ready to put this out now. And then, so I do have I have a lot of designs, a lot of ideas all the time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I say that I have like tons of products that are like made, and I'm just sitting on them, and I'm like, I'll put it out one day.
Exactly. And you never know, the right time will come, and you know.
Yeah. And the money will come.
Yeah.
Because some things you look at it and go, I don't know if this is gonna, like, you're not sure if it's gonna work.
Exactly, it's a bit of a risk.
Yeah. And then you kind of go, I'll just shelve that for a minute.
Yes.
I'll come back to it.
Exactly.
And then you see someone, you go, I made that thing already. Ooh, maybe I should have done it.
Yeah, definitely.
As they say, a good idea is never unique.
Yeah.
And in fashion, it's who beats you to the finish line.
Exactly.
What's next in terms of December's coming, Christmas?
Yes, Christmas is coming. We are expanding our store.
Amazing.
Which is amazing. Actually, the first time I'm saying it. We're expanding our store, so we'll have a nice shop opening. So it's in the same location where we are, but we're just making it bigger.
Taking up that square footage.
Yes, so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
And obviously our new collection will be in store for people to come and buy for Christmas. And that's what we have planned.
And where can we find you on the internet?
BankeKuku.com.
Amazing.
And at Banke Kuku on Instagram.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. All the links and stuff are in the show notes, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
1, 2,